Hello and welcome to another Uniko video with me, Bev, the owner and designer of all things Uniko. Welcome to the final day of product introductions, or I should say reintroductions, for our January 2025 release. Today, myself and the Uniko brand ambassadors are reintroducing this lovely clear stamp set. This one is called Background Builders Flower Power. It was originally released in August 2013. I can't remember when I retired it, but like some of them, they go out of fashion or not as popular as they once were when they first came out, and to make room for new stuff, I often retire stuff. But last year in 2024, I added two more flower power sets to the collection, and with this release we are bringing another one which was introduced the other day, which is Flower Power 11. So there is only one more to come to complete the collection, and that will be later on this year. So this one was the Flower Power 11 that we introduced earlier this week, which is the tulip design with the friendship sentiments. So when this one was released, there was only a handful of the Flower Power stamp sets, and I don't think it was only Flower Power 1, which is featured in this strip here, and I think it was up to Flower Power 3. And this flower, which is present in these two, is actually Flower Power 7, but used in two different ways. This flower here was from an original one stamp set that came out when Uniko first launched, which was Today, Tomorrow and Always Time, and there was Extra Time as well, and this flower featured in that one of them sets. And this one is also it's basically Flower Power 7 but layered up. So 7 hadn't even come out at the time. Obviously 1 had. So it pairs with some stuff that is still about and current in the Uniko collection, but I wanted to show how it pairs with other stuff now, and also just to bring it back to life a little bit. I had a request, it was probably more than a year ago now. Someone came across a card on Pinterest and asked if the set would be coming back. I wasn't sure back then, but I don't know, I just decided I'd bring it back with the reinvention and the reignition of the Flower Power series. So these are the two cards that I've shared on the blog today. This first card, I've used the flower that matches Flower Power 1. I'll just bring it in here. So this is the supersized version, and then you obviously get a little trio and the outline version in the stamp set. And I believe the size isn't quite the smallest one. It might be the smallest one. It's hard to tell from here. I'll just see if I can bring it out, just to see if I can match it up. Yeah, it's the smaller flower in this trio, just. And you'd think that I'd use my stamping platform to stamp that background, but I didn't actually. I'll show you how I do it using a standard block. And then I've just added a simple sentiment there from the Sparkle sentiments that are being that we introduced earlier in the week as well, and just a little bit of bling. And then on my second sample on the blog today, I wanted to show that even though this pattern, this flower, is from one of the other flower powers, it doesn't mean that it won't pair with another flower power. It's a floral design after all. And I was just going for a spring themed card, and I stamped it down the edge of my card in Sprout, and then I've built the tulip. And this sentiment is actually from Flower Power 4. So it's the whole collection and series is designed to mix and match and be used with each other, really, just to come up with more creative options. So I thought today I'd do a couple of cards showing a couple of my favourite sort of design layouts and ideas using these background builders. Now there's a few background builders in the Uniko lineup now. There's most of them are geometric shapes. But obviously now we've got some florals, we've got some Christmas ones. So here I've just got a piece of card that I've cut to 10 by 13.5 centimetres. And I've just secured it down with some temporary adhesive just to keep it in place. Now, one fun thing about these background stamps, the builder stamps, is with them being long, you can bend and move them slightly to change the shape. So I'm just taking off one that I've used earlier, and I have these long blocks here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a sort of curved shape to create almost like a garland across my card, so you can bend and move them slightly. Now I haven't used this one yet, and it's a brand new one, so I'm just going to go over the top with this pencil eraser. It just helps take some of the sort of manufacturer stickiness off, and for ink to instead of pooling on it, it sits nicely on the stamp. Now again, I'm going to go for some summery colours. I'm going to start with Sprout, and I'm just going to lightly tap over, and then we're just going to create like a spring garland across the card. So I'm just kind of winging this card. I have an idea in my head, and we'll see how it comes out. But I've done this a few times with some of the geometric shapes. I've done it with the stars, I've done it with the circles before. So I've just used a damp cloth just to clean off that Sprout colour, and I'm just going to stamp it off onto my work surface. And then I'm going to go in, I know with Marmalade is technically a retired colour, but it's such a lovely orange and I can't resist using it. It's bright, it's cheerful, and that's sort of what I'm going for on this card. So I'm going to go about here. Just pressing it over. The colours overlap a little bit, but it sort of makes more of a darker green. It's not too bad. Maybe should have thought about the colours I was overlapping, but hey ho, it's a fun experiment. So again, just cleaning it off, and then I'm going to go in with Honeysuckle. It's one of my favourite pinks. trying to decide. I think I'll go right across the middle. I want to fill in the little gaps a little bit, but I'll come down here a little bit, like so. I'm just going to do the 3 colours. I tend to do things in 3s. 3s and odd numbers are really eye-pleasing. But it's a really fun thing to do. But I do recommend don't leave the stamps on your block bent for too long. Because they will take on that shape a little bit. So I've just removed that and I'm just going to pop it to one side. And then we're going to add a simple sentiment. I've got a little mark on my card there. It won't matter too much because we will try and cover it up with a sentiment. Now I was just trying to think what to use. I had happy birthday somewhere on my desk, but goodness knows where I've put it. Oh, there it is. So I'm going to use this happy birthday from Simply Said blocks. I just think it's a lovely sentiment, and we always need lots of birthday cards throughout the year. So again, I'm just going to use a block to stamp this, and I'm going to stamp it on a separate piece of card. I keep these little scraps when I'm trimming my cards and the layers and things. I keep these little strips for the sentiments. Trying to get the most out of my supplies without breaking too much into new sheets all the time. And they're perfect for these sentiment blocks. So I've used the Versifying Clair again, the Nocturne colour, and we'll just let that dry a little bit. I won't smudge it, and I'm going to layer this up. I'm quite traditional when it comes to layering on my cards. I have favourite layouts, but for clean and simple designs it just works. So I'm using double-sided tape. I just think a simple layer with a slight border adds interest but still keeps it clean and simple, I suppose I'm trying to say. But it's such a fun thing to do, is changing the shape of these long background stamps. In the past, a few people have done like a wavy line effect. That looks awesome too. And obviously I was just stamping on the diagonal. I didn't change, I didn't bend the stamp, I just literally stamped on the diagonal and altered how long each one was, and that adds interest as well. So this piece of card is cut to 10.5 by 14, and it'll just leave a little white border around the edge. And as I say, just if you don't want a completely flat card, one layer card, it just adds a bit of interest without taking too much away from the design. Now I'm going to leave a slight white border as I cut the sentiment today. The Simply Said blocks are one of my favourites for sentiments. It's a go-to for ease as well. have some, from tomorrow we have some fabulous occasions added to the collection. Now I'm going to put the sentiment just up here, and I'm going to adhere it using foam tape, just the 1mm, which gives it a little bit of dimension without too much thickness for posting. I'm sure we'll see even more rises in postage costs this year, unfortunately. It's not good for us card makers who like to make and send our cards. And so we'll just pop, there's a little bit of a tiny little error on my card there, so I'm just gonna, where the stamping wasn't quite complete, or it smudged a little bit, and I've still managed to get a few smudgy finger marks with the black. I'll just use a little razor, hopefully that'll take most of it off. No matter how careful you are, sometimes you still get the finger smudges. I don't know if you're like me. It's frustrating. And we'll add a little bit of bling, I think, today, just to finish it off. There they are. I've got these lovely tiny rhinestones. I'm going to run out of them soon. I've used them a lot recently. A lovely friend of mine gave me them. She was clearing out her craft supplies, and I knew I'd put them to good use because I can't resist some bling. So I'm going to pop one on this flower, help draw your eye a little bit to the flower. We don't want to take too much focus away. No, I'm not happy with it there. I think we will just go down. Up there. Keep changing my mind. But as crafters, we're allowed to change our minds. I'm going to leave that one floating up there. And really, I just wanted to show you how you can bend these larger, longer photopolymer stamps. It's good fun, good for playing around and just changing patterns and things. You could go in and you could have added Nouveau drops to the centres of the flowers. I've done that before. That looks really nice and pretty. And then my other idea I wanted to show you is how you can build a background up without using a stamping platform. So as you see, I work on grid paper. So you want a grid of some sort, and most cutting mats, I apologise because this one will be dirty, they have like a grid system on. This one isn't as good as ones I've had in the past. I think my messy mat has a better grid system on it. This is my messy mat that I use for pastes and things, and you can see that most have a grid system on them, which is really useful if you are just using a traditional block. So again, I've put some temporary adhesive on just to secure it to my workspace, and I think it's 10.5 by 7.5 centimeters, I believe, this one. And I'm going to use this one, which is the design from one of Uniko's very first stamp sets. And what I'm doing here, I'm just laying it over the top lining it up with the edge of my card. And then I have this one's from Paper Mania Do Crafts. I bought it years and years ago, but what I did like about it, one for the length, so the stamp fits on, but it has some lines on it as well. Hopefully you can see that. And what I do is, might just have to stand up for this. Apologies if I knock the camera. So I'm just lining this thick line up with the grid lines on my paper. And again, it's a brand new stamp, so I haven't used it yet. So I'm just going to run this eraser over the top. Take that manufacture residue off. Some stamp companies say that they pay extra premium to take that manufacture residue off, but I think sometimes it's still there. And even when I've used a stamp a few times and say I've washed it with soapy water to get the ink off, there's a bit of a shine to some of the stamps sometimes still after washing them. So sometimes even, you know, a few months old and I'm still rubbing it with the eraser just so I know the ink will sit lovely each time. So I'm gonna go in and stamp this with black ink, just so you can see me stamping the background up. So I'm just lining up the bottom of the stamp with my card, because I know it's straight on my block. And then I'm just going to build it up. So I usually go from bottom to top. Now you could go ahead and do this in a rainbow of colours, any colours. But today I'm just going to show you how I stamp it and how it is quite easy. And if you don't get your gaps completely matched, that you'll still get a really good effect. I think I wobbled a little bit there, but never mind. So what I'll do is I will set this aside to dry later, because it's got lots of black. And then I'll go in with some coloured markers and add some colour. And I will share the results on the blog tomorrow on release day as to how I finish this card. So this is how I stamp my background sometimes if I don't want to use my stamping platform. And this is the same technique that I used on this card here, just using it on a grid system and building it up slowly. And I just did it in the rainbow colours there, obviously. But it is super easy. And I'm just making sure that the flowers sort of sit like they are in the pattern. So I'm putting this bottom one in between. It has this nice sort of staggered effect. Now you can see on my grid system that I've gone off maybe by 1 millimetre, which is noticeable at the minute, because if I stopped there you would see it. But when you carry on and you complete the whole pattern, you're not going to notice it as much at all. And it's only because we're looking carefully. If you wanted complete perfect pattern, you could use your stamping platform. I just find some of the older traditional ways just as quick and easy as if you were using your stamping platform, because you'd still need to move your paper inside the platform. You'd still need to look at the distance. You need to move it each time, getting it right and perfect every time. So it's whatever you're comfortable with at the end of the day, isn't it? I can be quite a traditionalist sometimes when it comes to stamping. I like some of the older supplies. That's why I keep them on hand. I mean, the stamping platform is good if you repeat stamping something, you know, to get a solid impression. But this ink is nice. Stamps lovely every time. So it's quite a busy pattern. I think when I've added some colour later, it'll calm the pattern down a little bit. You could leave it in black and white like this. I don't want to smudge it too much. But that is how I use a standard block and a grid system to stamp a complete background. And then what I'll do later is add a bit of colour, I'll adhere it, and I'll probably just finish off with a simple sentiment. I'll see how it looks with a flower on top. I'll have a play about. But as I said, I will share my results tomorrow on the Uniko blogs, and I will be popping back here on YouTube as well with another video to share the new release with you and some more of the cards that I've made. Anyway, I hope that has given you an insight into the Background Builder series and a little look at the potential that this background stamp set has. And I hope you will join me again tomorrow. Thank you for watching, for all your lovely comments, for subscribing, and see you all again tomorrow. Bye for now.